up? What up? What up? It's early. Let's talk about Jay-Z. I'm trying to make this question. Hey, double tap that screen. It's quiet. What up? What up? What up? Y'all think Jay-Z in trouble? Allegedly. Come on, y'all, talk to me. Good morning. Good morning. What's good? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, good people. Y'all think Jay-Z in trouble? Is Hove in trouble?
building your online business? Go to Wix.com and set up your store.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations of sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was sexually assaulted by both men at a Video Music Awards after party in 2000. In a blistering statement, Jay-Z accuses Jane Doe's attorney of trying to blackmail him. He said further, quote, "These allegations are so heinous in nature that I implore you to file a criminal complaint, not a civil one."
She double tap that screen for me. Good looking.
Would you not agree? He added, "My only heartbreak is for my family. My wife and I will have to sit our children down, one of whom is at the age where our friends will see the press and ask questions about the nature of these claims and explain the cruelty and greed of people." Joining us now, Joey Jackson, senior legal analyst and criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. There's a lot to unpack here. Joey, I want to start with just the statement from Jay-Z, which is so forceful in its denial. I just read a teeny part of it. It's long. Where he says that they should file a criminal complaint. Is that even possible at this point?
So based on the allegations, Jessica, good morning, good to see you. I think that it certainly could be. Why do I say that? Now, he, of course, is more than annoyed, would be an understatement. He has a family and he has a lot to protect, including his brand. But to the extent that he's saying, hey, come after me criminally, that could be likely. Why do I say that? Because rape in New York, and what's alleged in this complaint, is forcible compulsion. What that means in English is that it's saying that he held her down, raped her, and that, of course, the allegation is that Mr. Combs did the same thing. And so if those facts are actually accurate, it would require an investigation by prosecutors, and if true, right, you could pursue it criminally. Now, with respect to the evidentiary value, yes, it happened 24 years ago, right, more than 24 years ago, but in the allegations, there's a few things. Number one, that there's allegation that another celebrity was present at the time, right, in addition to other people. Number two, there's the claim by the victim, right, that she left, that she went and she was seen by a gas attendant who saw her in distress. Number three, that she phone called her dad who showed up, the 13-year-old, and now removed her. So civil complaint, simply allegations, needs to be proven in a court of law, but if true, it could rise to the level of criminality, and, you know, we'll see what happens if the DA looks and investigates.
So what happens now?
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system cannot only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to fact-finding, right? Before that, just briefly, there was a demand letter sent. And a demand letter is a letter being sent by a lawyer saying, hey, I don't have to sue you. We can sit, we can mediate it. If we reach an agreement, it never sees the light of day. Jay-Z saying, I don't care about your demand letter. I look at it as blackmail. You want to sue me, sue me. You want to look at it criminally, look at it criminally. Then we'll go through the fact-finding process. If a trial is necessary to determine the facts, that's what will happen. But it will be deemed civil. No indication at this point as to whether or not any criminal investigation will ensue as a result of this.
Yeah, and Jay-Z came back incredibly forcefully against these allegations and really singled out that attorney as well.
You should always advocate for yourself and be a voice for yourself. You should never let what somebody else did ruin or run your life.
A 38-year-old mother from Alabama who has filed a lawsuit accusing Sean Diddy Combs and Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 years old was speaking out to NBC News for the first time. She asked us not to reveal her identity.
What made you want to come forward and talk today?
Hit that poll. Answer that
I've
question.
been quiet long enough about what I've been through, and it's been hard enough to be quiet. But it's a chapter of my life that I'd like to close.
An NBC News review of her account found inconsistencies with her allegations. She says that she went to the MTV Video Music Awards in 2000 to catch a glimpse of her favorite celebrities.
You weren't scared to be all alone? No, with having autism is is like feeling like you live your life in a shatterproof driver ball. The world's on fire. The fire is inside the ball with you, but there's no way for you to get out.
In addition to having autism, the woman says she suffered a head injury. The night of the 2000s VMAs, she says a friend drove her from Rochester, New York to Manhattan, a more than 5-hour drive. Her attorney provided NBC News with the name of the friend who has since died. The woman says she spoke to Combs' limo driver, who offered her a ride to an after party.
I stumbled upon Diddy's driver, who told me that I was exactly what Diddy was looking for.
What did you think when he said that to you?
I thought it meant that I was just pretty.
She went to a White House, she says, where she spoke to musicians Benji Madden and his brother.
I'm talking to Benji Madden about his tattoo because, you know, I have a really obvious tattoo that's the Last Supper because I have a religious background. So it was just something to talk about.
In a statement to NBC News, a representative of the Maddens confirmed that they did not attend the 2000 VMAs and that they were on tour in the Midwest at the time. At the after party, she says she had a drink that made her feel woozy. Then she says Combs and Carter took turns raping her while a female celebrity watched.
JC comes in and rapes me. Well, he at that point I was fighting, trying to get away from him, and he put his hand over my mouth and told me to stop it, cut the.
After the alleged rape, she says she ran to a gas station where she called her father, who picked her up and drove her home.
We were home in silence. He didn't ask me what happened. He didn't ask me what I did or where I was.
In an interview with NBC News, her father said he could not verify the claims. Quote, I felt like I would remember that, and I don't. I have a lot going on, but I mean, that's something that would definitely stick in my mind, he said. When we asked the woman about the contradictions in a phone interview on Friday, she said that she stands by her statements. I've made some mistakes, she said. Honestly, what is the clearest is what happened to me. The inconsistencies in her account of an incident alleged to have happened 24 years ago does not necessarily mean the allegations are false. The accuser's attorney, Tony Busby, said, because we have interrogated her intensely, she has even agreed to submit to a polygraph. This has been extremely distressing for her, to the point she has experienced seizures and had to seek medical treatment due to the stress. In a statement to NBC News, Sean Carter said, this incident didn't happen, and yet he filed it in court and doubled down in the press. True justice is coming. We fight from victory, not for victory.
Is any part of you scared coming out against such powerful people?
Yeah, I'm scared of what happened, but I'm more afraid of letting it eat me alive from the inside out than I am of, you know, being chastised by their fans.
Right, Chloe Malatz joining us now live. Chloe, we just heard a very strongly worded statement from Jay-Z. What else are you hearing from him in his tape?
Yes.
The Adam and Mac Show. We in here coming off of what I believe is our most hated episode ever. Have you seen the feedback?
What was that?
They say Flo sucks. They hate Flo. Let me tell you. Flo, I love you. Well,
Now to some of the big legal cases we are following this week's burden of proof. Civil rights attorney Areva Martin joins me to break some of these down. Areva, good to see you. Thanks for being here on this weekend. Hip-hop mogul Jay-Z facing a rape allegation. Sean Carter, his real name, is doubling down against his accuser, saying she's looking for money and fame, releasing a new statement overnight, calling for the claim to be actually dismissed. What are you watching for in this case?
Well, Sean Carter, Jay-Z has good reason to ask for this case to be dismissed. The accuser came out and did an interview. Now, we didn't get to see her face, we didn't get to learn her name, but in the interview, she gave some statements that were inconsistent with the statements that, or the accusations, I should say, that are made in her lawsuit. And it does raise serious questions about the credibility of this accuser. One of the things that stood out to me, Phil, was her father. Her father was also contacted by the news media because in her interview, she says her dad picked her up from Sean Diddy Combs' home after the rape. She said that occurred after, she said, Jay-Z and Sean Combs raped her. Her dad said he had no recollection of this incident. And clearly a dad, as he said, would remember something this serious, this egregious. So I think there are some serious questions that need to be answered, and the way you get those questions answered when you are a defendant in a lawsuit is by filing the kind of motion that I anticipate we'll see filed by Jay-Z's law firm, because there are questions about the credibility of this accuser.
Fair enough. So let's go over to Sean Diddy Combs. He's facing some new rape allegations from 3 more men. According to new civil lawsuits, the men say Diddy sexually assaulted them between 2019 and 2022, so these are more recent claims. Diddy's attorney says the allegations are false. The men's attorney says he was contacted by more than 60 people, but only chose to file these 3 cases so far because he vetted them. I'm wondering if you think we could see more lawsuits of this kind.
Well, absolutely. We know a Houston attorney has said he plans to file over 100 lawsuits against Sean Diddy Combs. He says hundreds of people have come to his office, have contacted his office about rape or sexual assault allegations involving Sean Combs. One thing I think is important here, many of these claims happened 10, 15, 20 years ago, like the case of Jay-Z. And we know, statistically, women in particular don't typically lie about being raped or sexually assaulted. So I don't want to suggest that the accuser in Jay-Z's case is lying about her claim, but these claims can be very difficult, particularly when they happened so many years ago. Memories fade, information about the claims becomes difficult to ascertain. But in the case of these 3 men that have just filed civil complaints against Sean Combs, these are allegations that are between 2019 and 2022, so they're more recent claims. And they have, again, some very specific allegations in their complaints. Obviously, this may lead to further criminal investigation by prosecutors, and we could see if these claims are valid or prosecutors believe they are valid, we could see superseding indictments filed against Sean Combs based on these 3 rape allegations. But again, at this point, they're allegations. Nothing's been proven in the court of law, but they are very serious and could lead to additional felony charges.
And moving now to country star Morgan Wallen, pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges of reckless endangerment for throwing a chair off the roof of a bar, nearly hitting 2 police officers. He was sentenced to 7 days in a DUI education center and 2 years probation. So first, what are DUI education centers, and then how common is it for people to receive that type of sentence?
Pretty common, particularly it appears that this country singer may have an issue with alcohol or maybe substance abuse, and these kind of diversionary programs are appropriate when someone has engaged in this kind of conduct.
It's not having access to 1 million industrial-grade products that's so amazing. It's the feeling of knowing you'll find the one you need. Great. Before talking about the B. Diddy case, he always edifies us, always appreciate his time. What's up, Big Tom? How are you?
What's going on, Stephen? I'm good. How you doing?
I had to have you on because last time you were on, everybody wanted to see that one. So I had to have you back on. Let's get right to it. According to the report, Jay-Z became embroiled in a puppy case after Busby sent a letter back last month that alleged Jay-Z raped and drugged a 13-year-old girl who comes at the 2000 VMA after party. My question to you was this. For those that don't know, he received a demand letter, whatever. What's a demand letter? Explain what that is.
A demand letter is essentially a letter a lawyer is going to send to ask somebody to take something down. Here, the demand letter sent by Tony Busby, the lawyer on behalf of the Jane Doe in this case, was, hey, let's get together and have a mediation over a claim that my client has made that you assaulted her. Now, it seems once you hear that, you're a lawyer, right? If you get that kind of letter. Tony Busby requested mediation, private mediation, to try to go through this. But the reason why Jay-Z reacted so strongly is it's kind of like, wait a second, this isn't a demand letter to pay a fine. This is a demand letter asking for some sort of legal action, asking for some sort of civil discourse about a potential sexual assault. So for Jay-Z, this demand letter would have, if he said yes, put him in mediation, and in his mind, opened him up for a discussion about whether or not he owes damages for something he says he didn't do. So a demand letter is fairly common for lawyers to send to each other, asking for a certain particular legal action. But in this case, because of the explosive nature of the claims, you can understand why Jay-Z went off on Tony Busby.
Jay-Z's team labeled this an extortion attempt. How is that hyperbole? Is that excessive? Is that on point? How would you qualify or classify such a label, an extortion attempt?
Stephen A., it depends on your perspective, right? So if you're Tony Busby, you have a client, and that's the lawyer for this Jane Doe who's accusing Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 at this after party. If you're Tony Busby, your client has made this claim. You want to try to settle it in a civil suit. So essentially, you're looking for money damages. So for you, it's reaching out saying, hey, let's settle this thing. You've been named and it's something I've filed, but I've kept that private. I want to have a discussion in mediation to sort this out. We can sort it out that way. The reason why Jay-Z would see it as extortion is you got to start from the perspective from Jay-Z of, I didn't do this. So if you get a letter like that and you didn't do this, why would I do any sort of legal procedure? But when you think about the way Jay-Z's looking at it, it's okay, I haven't been named in something, and if I don't do this mediation, what happens then? I'm named, I'm subject to public scrutiny, now everybody believes that I did this thing that I said I didn't do, which, as you and I know, Stephen A., when somebody's name is put out there for a crime, a lot of times people believe it before they find out the facts. So for Jay-Z, it appears to be an extortion attempt, because he's saying, look, you're just trying to do this to get me for money. If I don't come to mediation, then you're going to expose me, which in a sense did happen. His name got out there. And now, in order to not do that, I've got to pay you money and go through this mediation. So from his perspective, it's an extortion attempt, because if he doesn't cooperate with the mediation, then his name's out there, unless he pays money in some way. That's why they qualify it as extortion.
His response was swift, no question about that. In a strongly worded statement, he categorically denied any truth to these allegations that have been leveled against him, and said he wanted to give Busby one red penny, quote unquote, and challenged Busby to file a criminal lawsuit rather than a civil one. What are we to make of that point that Jay-Z made? Because it resonated with me, Ryan, from the standpoint that he was saying, listen, if this is a crime that happened and this is so heinous, where's the criminal charges? Bring it on. That basically was what Jay-Z was saying.
Yeah, Stephen A., it's like he's saying, hey, look, I'm innocent, so bring it all out. You think it's that, you think I committed a crime, file a criminal charge. A couple things here. First, Tony Busby said in response to that, hey, I'm considering that, it's up to my client, I'm going to leave that to her. There's a lot of different complications in this. The first thing is, somebody might be able to file a criminal complaint in this case, or let's say Tony Busby could in some ways, but it's up to prosecutors to prosecute that case. So it's not as if you just go in and say, hey, I'm going to file a criminal charge against you. Not how it works. The prosecutor would have to be able to take up the case. The other thing is, in a case like this all happened all the way back in 2000, right? So this is over 20 years ago. And if a prosecutor is looking at a case like this, they're looking at what's the evidence like? Who are the witnesses? This is one of the reasons why Jay-Z is actually requesting right now in a filing that the name be revealed of the Jane Doe here. He's trying to figure out, okay, if you've made this claim, let's hear some witnesses. Let's try to see the evidence here. Let me try to get a sense of what my case would be here. But the real difficult part of this is the statute of limitations for first-degree rape in New York State. This is a New York State case. That right now doesn't have a statute of limitations. Back then, depending on the charge, there could be a statute of limitations. So it gets a little complicated there. But if this is a first-degree forcible rape kind of case that Tony Busby seems to be saying it is here, at least in these filings, charges could be a possibility. But filing a criminal complaint is different from prosecutors taking up that case and making a criminal charge happen, if the allegations are true.
The alleged victim was 13 at the time, which means she's now grown. So how likely is it that she will be named?
It's a tough scenario. They're asking the judge to talk about it. He can't know for sure. There's a couple different reasons. First, you name a client, you name a Jane Doe in a case of this. The argument is generally this: you weigh the public need to have the information and the defendant's right in some ways to have the information with the needs of the particular Jane Doe involved in it. What do I mean by that? Well, there's another side of this. If you look at it from the Jane Doe's perspective of, is there the possibility for retribution? What would happen to that person if their name was revealed? That's one thing a judge would weigh. On Jay-Z's side, they're going to weigh the public interest of it. Is there something that requires this to be out there? Does it in some way help the defendant build their case? So right now, I look at a case like this and I say it's an unknown, because you just don't know how a judge is going to decide in this case. And we also, here's the big thing, Stephen A. We don't know the evidence and the details. What we have right now is a claim from someone from over 20 years ago that this happened. Not saying it's not true. Not saying the allegations aren't to be believed. Just saying it's hard to know what's happening here until you have more evidence and more information.
But he has a right to know who she is. Now, it might not be revealed to the public, but if he's being accused, he has a right to know who he is being accused by. If not now, then obviously at some point, that is expected to be the case, right?
But definitely that will happen eventually. And you look at a case like this, Stephen A., what becomes really interesting is this is a civil case. So I mentioned before, that's the money damages. But if this goes ahead as a civil case, so right now Jay-Z is asking that it be thrown out. Either reveal the name or throw it out. If they don't throw it out and it goes forward, so if it's not dismissed, then you have things like depositions that happen. In those depositions, Jay-Z is interviewed, the accuser, the person who's accusing him of the crime is interviewed. And that's where things get very interesting. See, I look at a case like this, and I think back to what we saw in the P. Diddy case, the allegations that came out there. And I look back to what happened in that case. Allegations, investigators started interviewing people, started talking about different things, and eventually RICO charges were filed. Not saying Jay-Z is related to that in any way. But one thing I think Jay-Z has got to be concerned about is if this case goes forward, those depositions. He's got to answer all kinds of questions under oath. If you lie in depositions, you face the threat of perjury, which is a criminal offense. So in those instances, what becomes interesting is what's revealed there. This is one of the reasons why he has a criminal lawyer. Not because we're saying, hey, he did something wrong, but you get a criminal lawyer in a civil case like this because of what could happen, of where an investigation could lead. You process a civil case, you never know if authorities might be looking at that in some way, investigating that in some way to see if there's some other charge, see if there's some charge that might need to be brought. So that's where this thing gets very complicated. Yes, at some point, he will learn the identity. But the question is, once he learns that identity and those depositions happen, what happens next?
Could you illustrate, because one of the things that I've been making a point of is that, listen, I don't know what happened, and I'm certainly not going to pretend to know what happened. I've known him for 25 years, so I've been on the record saying I can't believe that the person that I've known for 25 years would be capable of such a thing. I don't believe it, but that's as far as anybody, any human being, as far as I'm concerned, can go. To go any further than that would be utterly irresponsible. But what I want to also do is highlight the difference right now. People are acting like, to me, when you bring up P. Diddy, people bring up him, they bring up P. Diddy in the same sentence for obvious reasons. And I'm like, well, Homeland Security showed up for P. Diddy's properties in Miami and Los Angeles. Ultimately, an arrest was forthcoming, which he knew, which is why he came to New York. And ultimately, he was arrested, and he has been incarcerated and denied bail, not one, not two, but 3 different times.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside. And get the Bearskin Tactical Hoodie 4.0, the 10-pocket tactical micro fleece hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort, wherever you are. Because the average hoodie made these days is weak, flimsy, and has one weird kangaroo pocket in the front. And listen, you're not a kangaroo, you're a man. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the Bearskin hoodie instead of their regular hoodies. Why? Because sure, your average hoodie provides decent insulation to keep you warm. But as soon as you go outside, the wind blows, the rain pours, and you get cold. That's why we designed the new and improved Bearskin Hoodie 4.0 with improved winsulation technology on the waist, arms, and hood. Plus, now you can attach the new heavy storm rain jacket to the inside of the hoodie for an instant waterproof layer that blocks rain double time. Finally, a functional hoodie you can actually take outside. You're seeing this video because we want to offer you 60% off the Bearskin 4.0 with free delivery. And you may not see this video again, so click below to reserve your order. Or you can go to IHateLayers.com to claim your discount. Just like you, we hate carrying man bags, duffel bags, or messenger bags just to keep our valuables safe and dry. Because hey, you're not a messenger, you're a man. That's why this is the world's only 3-in-1 waterproof tactical hoodie with 10 pockets and adjustable insulation technology. With fully adjustable toggles on the waist, arms, and hood, there's just no way for the rain or wind to get inside. Need more storage? Get 5 secure zip pockets on the outside, 2 zip pockets on the inside, and 3 fleece-lined drop pockets on the inside for your valuables. So, does the Bearskin hoodie actually look good on a day-to-day basis? No, it looks fantastic. This is a hoodie you can take out in the wild, wear at home or in the office, or while climbing up a glacier on your hands and knees. With a fully adjustable design, you'll get the perfect square profile that's never too bulky or baggy, with a customized fit that's tailored to you. And that's why everybody knows guys look better in a bearskin. You see that material? It's called bearskin microfleece. That's because it's made from real polar bears. Not really, but it's made with extra thick double-brushed microfleece that's perfect for cold or snowy conditions. And now that you can attach the heavy storm rain jacket, you can block the rain when you head outside and pack it away in its own stash pocket when the storm is over. No more wind, no more rain, and no more cold. So if you're ready, go to IHateLayers.com or click below to activate the 60% off deal. The Bearskin hoodie already sold out twice last winter, with loads of incredible reviews from People.com, Muscle and Fitness, as well as Mountain IQ. So now that you know there's a better alternative, why not get a bearskin? Go to IHateLayers.com or click below to activate 60% off with free delivery. The 60% off deal only lasts for a short while, so make sure you choose your size today and reserve your order before stock runs out.
Healthcare.gov has plans for health because you have plans for life. All plans cover doctor visits and emergency care to keep you and your family running strong. All plans cover hospital stays and prescriptions to give you peace of mind. 4 out of 5 customers can find a health plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Visit healthcare.gov to explore plans from the brands you know. New law, lower prices. Healthcare.gov is here for you. Enroll by December 15th.
Clearly, it's not the case here. Should Jay-Z be fearful that it could be the case? Is this the kind of thing that we're looking at down the line potentially?
I'm glad you asked that question because I want to distinguish between what we're seeing right now, Stephen A., with the Jay-Z situation and what we saw in the Biggie situation. There, as you mentioned, raid on his home, lengthy investigation, going even the charges, talking about a criminal enterprise, his companies and all that, not only him, not only involved in making records, but having this criminal enterprise with these 3 cars. I would not.
When a major celebrity just gets accused of raping a minor in a bombshell lawsuit, we gotta bring in a high-profile litigator. Enter Ben Chu, Johnny Depp's lawyer who famously represented him in a trial with competing claims of abuse. We're going to be breaking down right now the new claims and the legal warfare that's happening in the case of Jay-Z. But the sidebar, presented by Law and Crime, Jesse Beck. All right, so we want to continue this conversation of Jay-Z on this massive lawsuit that he's now facing. It is still pretty shocking, the fact that a woman claims when she was 13 years old, she was raped by Jay-Z, Sean Carter, and Sean Combs at a VMA's after party back in 2000. And if you haven't been following our coverage of this was a suit that was originally filed back in October by Texas attorney Tony Busby. It didn't originally name Jay-Z. This alleged attacker was only identified as Celebrity A, but depending on who you ask, there might have been a breakdown in the behind-the-scenes, maybe we say negotiations is the right word, revolving the suit, because Busby ends up filing a lawsuit on his client's behalf, and now he has named Jay-Z as a defendant in this amended complaint. Now, Jay-Z's version of what happened was that he refused to be what he and his lawyers call extorted or blackmailed by Tony Busby. In fact, in a statement in response to the lawsuit, Jay-Z said in part, quote, "My lawyer received a blackmail attempt called a demand letter from a lawyer named Tony Busby. What he had calculated was the nature of these allegations and the public scrutiny would make me want to settle. No, sir. It had the opposite effect. It made me want to expose you for the fraud you are in a very public fashion. So no, I will not give you one red penny." And also said in the statement, "You have made a terrible error in judgment, thinking that all celebrities are the same." And then later he said, "I look forward to showing you just how different I am." Now, Busby also responded on X, denying that this was the case, writing in part, quote, "No one has made any threats. Jay-Z's assertions are bogus and laughable. Instead, our firm sent a standard demand letter seeking a mediation on behalf of a woman who alleges Jay-Z sexually assaulted her as a minor."
Check this out. Let me show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, $118 for car insurance. That's how much I was paying, okay? I picked up the car a few months ago, and watch this, ready? $97 premium, $20 were my fees, $118. Now, I covered up my private information, guys, $39, $118. Check this out, ready? $500 for comprehensive, $500 for collision, $500 for comprehensive, $500 for collision, okay? The same make and model, Hyundai Ioniq, okay? My guys, it's the same policy, $118 to $39. As you can see, I have full coverage. I have a premium policy. I love my coverage. I love my insurance company, but I was paying a lot and I didn't even realize it. Check this out. See, look. All right. Hyundai Ioniq. I picked my year. Okay. Hyundai Ioniq. There's my make. Picked it already. And then you're gonna scroll down and find your model. It's Ioniq Limited. Guys, this only takes 2 minutes. Okay? Just, it's free. Stop overpaying. Fill this out.
Did you know that Amazon has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every month? And here's how you can get ahead of it. My name is Charlotte Nicholson, and we help everyday people grow their income with this one simple method. And we're pretty darn good at it. Our company, Publishing.com, was named the 19th fastest growing company in America. And the only reason we're so successful is because of the success that we created for others. And I'll tell you why our method works so much better than anything else you might have tried. It's because starting a business is not the best way for regular people to make more money. And that's what everyone gets wrong. Starting and running a business is hard. It's expensive, it takes a long time, and it requires skills and experience that most people don't. Instead, we help you plug into Amazon and the $500 billion a year business they've already built. Now, the way we do it is completely different from anything you've seen before. We don't show you how to buy and sell physical products on Amazon like everybody else. The way we plug into Amazon is through this app on our phone called Audible, which most people don't know is one of Amazon's apps. And using this app, I showed my mom how to get paychecks like this from Amazon every month. Look, this didn't make her rich, so if that's what you're looking for, this isn't for you. But if you want an extra income stream on top of what you're currently making that pays you every month like clockwork, that we can help you with. So if you want to see how we do it, my husband Christian, who discovered this method, just finished making the best video training he's ever made, walking you through step by step exactly how to set up this Audible app strategy for yourself. And the best part is, it's 100% free. There is absolutely no risk in clicking on this video and seeing for yourself how this is working for so many people. So just hit the button on your screen, put in your email, and you'll have instant access to this free training which reveals everything.
Steven here says, I'm so glad I didn't skip that YouTube ad because my last check from Audible was life-changing. And here's what others have to say about it.
This past month, I reached $8,000 in revenue, and I'm on track to reach $10,000 in revenue this month.
I've been able to go from 0 to 22K in 7 months, and of course, this completely changed my life.
I do this on a part-time basis, about 5 to 10 hours a week. I earn about $40,000 a year. There's no other job that pays with that little time.
So, to get free access to the training, all you need to do is tap the button on your screen, put in your email, and you can watch it right away. And look, if you're skeptical that what I'm sharing here is BS, or you think that those were paid actors, whatever you're thinking, that's fine. I get it. But that's exactly why we put together this free training for you, so that you can see for yourself what it's all about first. So you can see how it works, exactly how we do it, completely for free. Now, we wouldn't be the 19th fastest growing company in America if our stuff wasn't good. So the most important thing that you can do right now is don't waste any more time. Hit the link, go through the free training, see our 3-step process to making money with Audible, and get results. So again, my name is Charlotte Nicholson, and I'll see you on the training.
The letter was vetted and approved by our client, whose preference was to attempt resolution short of filing a lawsuit. This approach is common in these types of cases. What you are seeing played out now is a coordinated and desperate effort to focus the public's attention on me personally to avoid attention on the allegations being made by my clients. And we learned that Jay-Z is also believed to be the John Doe who recently filed a lawsuit anonymously against Tony Busby, claiming extortion and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We didn't know who it was, but it seems to be that it was Jay-Z. And now there is also this heated back and forth about whether Jane Doe in this lawsuit should be able to proceed anonymously in her lawsuit. Jay-Z and his legal team are pushing for her to have her reveal herself, partly because they say Jay-Z has a right to notice accuser, to investigate her claims, to challenge her. It's only fair. Busby counters by saying this is highly sensitive material and revealing her identity could cause her further trauma. Also, there is a safety concern about her identifying herself. And now, in an interesting side tidbit, which we'll get into, a woman allegedly reached out to Jay-Z's legal team explaining her experiences with Tony Busby's law firm, where she is essentially claiming that she was dropped as a client when she refused to adopt a sexual assault narrative that the firm wanted her to proceed with. Shocking when we get into that. By the way, as an aside, let me also say real quick, it's not just us here at Long Climb that have been covering these Diddy stories and updates for you. Websites all over the internet are grabbing readers with headlines like Puff Daddy stays in jail for trying to influence witnesses. Woman sues Sean Combs for raping her. And that is exactly where a platform like this comes in. So what they are is a small independent team that we actually partner with because they can help us deliver just the facts when we report on stories like this. You can go to ground.news/sidebar to follow along while I show you how it works with this Diddy story. So you get a quick summary of how Diddy's lawyers claim prosecutors allegedly unlawfully obtained his jail cell notes, including attorney-client privilege information. Remember that? Well, based on every source that Ground News found on reporting on this, the left are clearly down. Making this a potential blind spot for more conservative news consumers. But it's not just about who's covering the story, it's also about how they're covering it. Well, Ground News calculated the majority of these articles come from highly credible sources, so you can instantly see which headlines are more objective and which might be skewing the facts. The bottom line here, don't let someone else's spin shape your understanding of the truth. Just head to ground.news/sidebar or scan the QR code right there and use our link to save 50% off of the top-tier Vantage plan, which offers unlimited access. It's the same plan that we've been using. So thank you to Ground News for sponsoring this episode of Sidebar. I have to bring on one of our favorites, renowned litigator, trial attorney Ben Chu, who famously represented Johnny Depp in his very high-profile civil trial against Amber Heard. My goodness, I mean, what do you want to talk about first? You want to first talk about the allegations in the Jay-Z lawsuit before we talk about the legal war that's going on? What do you make of the fact that he has been identified in this case and the allegations against him?
We are here to guide our clients, and we're here to help them navigate this sometimes unfair and definitely complicated system of immigration.
And if you are not with someone who's trustworthy, you can get taken advantage of.
The first job I find I work for is 12 hours, $180 for 7 days.
There are terrible law firms. They get your money and just like bring you along.
And when somebody entrusts their future in you, we have a responsibility to take care of them.
For their children, for their story, and where they're going to go afterwards.
It's not at work who just right now makes it distant.
Having her on my case, it was a lifeline. Literally. Call her.
Use Loom Video to capture your message clearly every time. Record your great ideas once and share them forever. All you have to do is hit record. Try Loom for free today.
Good morning, Jesse. It's great to see you again. Yeah, these are shocking allegations, and I think he's put out a very forceful statement against them, which I think is a good move, both legally and in terms of PR. Assuming, of course, that he is innocent of that, I think these are the kinds of allegations that one would expect someone falsely accused to push back on extremely strongly, which he is now done.
For people who haven't read the complaint, let me just give them a sample. It reads, Combs then threw plaintiff toward a wall. Again, allegedly 13 years old when this happened. Combs then threw plaintiff toward a wall, causing plaintiff to fall. Plaintiff got up and stumbled, at which point Combs grabbed her again and threw her on the bed. At that point, Carter began removing plaintiff's clothes as she grew more and more disoriented. And then the complaint says that Jay-Z raped this 13-year-old, and then Diddy allegedly raped her too. And she claims she actually fought back, hit Combs in the neck, was able to grab her clothes, run out of the room. Ben, could she win a case like this based purely on her testimony? If this is so old, maybe there's no surveillance, maybe there's no text messages, maybe there's no forensics, could she win based purely on her account of what happened?
She could theoretically win if her testimony were especially compelling, but I think you put your finger on one of the real weaknesses, is that these allegations are ancient. One thing that leapt out to me is the allegations also include that there was a witness,
yes,
other than Diddy, who, a female, another woman. Her testimony, and obviously she will be subpoenaed, could be crucial. I mean, if that testimony corroborated the plaintiff's claims, then that would be something that would really be a game changer. But the plaintiff alone, I think, is going to face some credibility issues, especially when you have Jay-Z. I mean, Diddy, the allegations are pretty widespread, but there haven't been similar allegations about Jay-Z, and that really sets the case apart.
I believe you're referring to Celebrity B, this female celebrity who was in that room. Do you think this person has settled maybe her claims with Tony Busby? What do I mean by that? If she was present, I imagine that Tony Busby might have reached out to her and said, listen, I can file a lawsuit against you too because of you being there. You were present, you were a witness, maybe. Do you think that this is a person who maybe already settled her claim so that she would be a cooperating witness for Tony Busby's case? I mean, tell me how you think that might work.
That would be a brilliant move if that's what Busby did, because otherwise he's making really, the worst, the harshest kind of allegations, and he's signing his name to it. I mean, he referred to his client vetting a demand letter. Well, sure, the client is supposed to vet the demand letter in terms of the factual allegations, but the legal allegations, the legal import of that is the province of the attorney. So you can't necessarily just hide behind your client. But were he to have made a deal with Celebrity B, that would really backstop both his client and himself in terms of his potential exposure for being involved in frivolous litigation.
But You think Celebrity B would take any kind of deal where they have to testify and say, yeah, I was in a room while a 13-year-old was being sexually assaulted, and yeah, I'm not being sued now because I settled my claims? I mean, either way, if this is true and this person knows who Celebrity B was, I can't even imagine, even if they were cooperating witness of some kind, that they don't look really, really bad from this.
I totally agree. I think that premise is dubious for the reasons you mentioned. I mean, Celebrity B, while it would be a terrible thing not to have reported these crimes, very serious crimes if in fact they were committed, but it's unclear what, if any, civil liability Celebrity B would not have, or would have, for not being a good Samaritan. I mean, I think the statute on that, to the extent that there's any liability for not reporting, had long since been passed. So I don't think she would have any legal or factual incentive to make such a deal. I think her incentive would be not to cooperate at all and to deny that she witnessed any such thing.
Right. Let's get into a little bit of this legal warfare that's going on. What do you make of the fact that Busby revealed Jay-Z as Celebrity A based on what he says was a failure to meet on mediation, that this was a standard demand letter? What do you make of his version of events?
Well, I have one problem. I mean, he's right in the sense, as you know, Jesse, that it's standard and it's smart to give a potential defendant an opportunity to settle prior to filing a lawsuit, because at that point, the plaintiff would have kind of detonated the grenade and forced the defendant in a position where he almost has to fight. Whereas when you send a demand letter and say that you're interested to talk and settle the matter on a confidential basis, that is an appropriate standard thing to do, assuming that you have a legitimate claim. Where I think he's on weaker ground is where he is litigating this in the media and making statements defending himself. One of my mentors always told me, never defend yourself, defend your client, and always remember that you're representing yourself. And the only time you answer any allegations against yourself is when a judge is specifically asking you to. And I think that Busby crossed that line in the sense that he's now giving press conferences talking about himself and his own actions when he should be representing his client. That's just my opinion.
Before, talking about the B. Diddy case, he always edifies us, always appreciate his time. What's up, Big Time? How are you?
What's going on, Stephen A? I'm good. How you doing?
I had to have you on because last time you were on, everybody wanted to see that one. So I had to have you back on. Let's get right to it. According to the reports, Jay-Z became embroiled in a puppy case after Busby sent the letter back last month that alleged Jay-Z raped and drugged a 13-year-old girl with Combs in the 2000 BMA after party. My question to you was this. For those that don't know, he received a demand letter, whatever. What's a demand letter? Explain what that is.
A demand letter is essentially a letter a lawyer is going to send to ask somebody to take a certain action. Here, the demand letter sent by Tony Busby, the lawyer on behalf of the Jane Doe in this case, was, hey, let's get together and have a mediation over a claim that my client has made that you assaulted her. Now, it seems, once you hear that, you're a lawyer, right? You get that kind of letter. Tony Busby requested mediation, private mediation, to try to go through this. But the reason why Jay-Z reacted so strongly is it's kind of like, wait a second, this isn't a demand letter to pay a fine. This is a demand letter asking for some sort of legal action, asking for some sort of civil discourse about a potential sexual assault. So for Jay-Z, this demand letter would have, if he said yes, put him in mediation, and in his mind, opened him up for a discussion about whether or not he owes damages for something he says he didn't do. So a demand letter is fairly common for lawyers to send to each other, asking for a certain particular legal action. But in this case, because of the explosive nature of the claims, you can understand why Jay-Z went nuts on Tony Busby.
Jay-Z's team labeled this an extortion attempt. How is that hyperbole? Is that excessive? Is that on point? How would you qualify or classify such a label? an extortion attempt.
And Stephen A., it depends on your perspective, right? So if you're Tony Busby, you have a client, and that's the lawyer for this Jane Doe who's accusing Jay-Z of raping her when she was 13 at this after party. If you're Tony Busby, your client has made this claim. You want to try to settle it in a civil suit. So essentially, you're looking for money damages. So for you, it's reaching out and saying, hey, let's settle this thing. You've been named in something I filed, but I've kept that private. I want to have a discussion in mediation to sort this out. We can sort it out that way. The reason why Jay-Z would see it as extortion is you got to start from the perspective from Jay-Z of, I didn't do this. So if you get a letter like that, and you didn't do this, why would I do any sort of legal procedure? But when you think about the way Jay-Z's looking at it, it's okay, I haven't been named in something, and if I don't do this mediation, what happens then? I'm named, I'm subject to public scrutiny, now everybody believes that I did this thing that I said I didn't do, which, as you and I know, Stephen A., when somebody's name is put out there for a crime, a lot of times people believe it before they find out the facts. So for Jay-Z, it appears to be an extortion attempt, because he's saying, look, you're just trying to do this to get me for money. If I don't come to mediation, then you're going to expose me, which in a sense did happen. His name got out there, and now, in order to not do that, I've got to pay you money to go to this mediation. So from his perspective, it's an extortion attempt, because if he doesn't cooperate with the mediation, then his name's out there, unless he pays money in some way. That's why they qualify it as extortion.
His response was swift, no question about that. A strongly worded statement. He categorically denied any truth to these allegations that have been leveled against him, and said he wanted to give Busby one red penny, quote unquote, and challenged Busby to file a criminal lawsuit rather than a civil one. What are we to make of that point that Jay-Z made? Because it resonated with me, Ryan, from the standpoint that he was saying, listen, if this is a crime that happened and this is so heinous, where's the criminal charges? Bring it on. That basically was what Jay-Z was saying.
Yeah, Stephen A., it's like he's saying, hey, look, I'm innocent, so bring it all out. You think it's that? If you think I committed a crime, file a criminal trial. Couple things there. First, Tony Busby said in response to that, hey, I'm considering that, it's up to my client, I'm going to leave that to her. There's a lot of different complications in this. The first thing is, somebody might be able to file a criminal complaint in this case, or let's say Tony Busby could in some ways, but it's up to prosecutors to prosecute that case. So it's not as if you just go in and say, hey, I'm going to file a criminal charge against you. Not how it works. The prosecutor will have to be able to take up the case. The other thing is, in a case like this all happened all the way back in 2000, right? So this is over 20 years ago, and if a prosecutor is looking at a case like this, they're looking at what's the evidence like, who are the witnesses. This is one of the reasons why Jay-Z is actually requesting right now in a filing that the name be revealed of the Jane Doe. He's trying to figure out, okay, if you've made this claim, let's hear some witnesses. Let's try to see the evidence here. Let me try to get a sense of what my case would be here. But the real difficult part of this is the statute of limitations for first-degree rape in New York State. This is a New York State case. That right now doesn't have a statute of limitations. Back then, depending on the charge, there could be a statute of limitations. So it gets a little complicated there. But if this is a first-degree forcible rape kind of case that Tony Busby seems to be saying it is here, at least in these filings, charges could be a possibility, but filing a criminal complaint is different from prosecutors taking up that case and making a criminal charge happen, if the allegations are true.
The alleged victim was 13 at the time, which means she's now grown. So how likely is it that she will be?
It's a tough scenario. They're asking the judge to talk about it. You can't know for sure. There's a couple different reasons. First, you name a client, you name a Jane Doe in a case of this, the argument is generally this. You weigh the public need to have the information and the defendant's right in some ways to have the information with the needs of the particular Jane Doe involved in the order. What do I mean by that? Well, there's another side of this. If you look at it from the Jane Doe's perspective of, is there the possibility for retribution? What would happen to that person if their name was revealed? That's one thing a judge would weigh. On Jay-Z's side, they're going to weigh the public interest of it. Is there something that requires this to be out there? Does it in some way help the defendant build their case? So right now, I look at a case like this and I say it's an unknown, because you just don't know how a judge is going to decide in this case. And we also, here's the big thing, Stephen A., We don't know the evidence and the details. What we have right now is a claim from someone from over 20 years ago that this happened. Not saying it's not true. Not saying the allegations aren't to be believed. Just saying it's hard to know what's happening here until you have more evidence or more information.
But he has a right to know who she is. Now, it might not be revealed to the public, but if he's being accused, he has a right to know who he is being accused by. If not now, then obviously, definitely at some point, that is expected to be the case, right?
But definitely that will happen eventually. And you look at a case like this, you know, what becomes really interesting is this is a civil case. So I mentioned before, that's for money damage. But if this goes ahead as a civil case, so right now Jay-Z is asking that it be thrown out. Either reveal the name or throw it out. If they don't throw it out and it goes forward, so if it's not dismissed, then you have things like depositions that happen. In those depositions, Jay-Z is interviewed, the accuser, the person who's accusing him of the crime is interviewed. And that's where things get very interesting. See, I look at a case like this, and I think back to what we saw in the P. Diddy case, the allegations that came out there, and I look back to what happened in that case. Allegations, investigators started interviewing people, started talking about different things, and eventually RICO charges were filed. Not saying Jay-Z is related to that in any way, but one thing I think Jay-Z has got to be concerned about is if this case goes forward, those depositions. He's got to answer all kinds of questions under oath. If you lie in depositions, you face the threat of perjury, which is a criminal offense. So in those instances, what becomes interesting is what's revealed there. This is one of the reasons why he has a criminal lawyer. Not because we're saying, hey, he did something wrong, but you get a criminal lawyer in a civil case like this because of what could happen, of where an investigation could lead. You process a civil case, you never know if authorities might be looking at that in some way, investigating that in some way to see if there's some other charge, see if there's some charge that might need to be brought. So that's where this thing gets very complicated. Yes, at some point he will learn the identity, but the question is once he learns that identity and those depositions happen, what happens next?
Could you illustrate, because one of the things that I've been making a point of is that, you know, listen, I don't know what happened, and I'm certainly not going to pretend to know what happened. I've known him for 25 years, so I've been on the record saying I can't believe that the person that I've known for 25 years would be capable of such a thing. I don't believe it, but that's as far as anybody, any human being, as far as I'm concerned, can go. To go any further than that would be utterly irresponsible. But what I want to also do is highlight the difference right now. People are acting like, to me, when you bring up P. Diddy, people bring up him, and they bring up P. Diddy in the same sentence for obvious reasons. And I'm like, well, Homeland Security shelled up P. Diddy's properties in Miami and Los Angeles. Ultimately, an arrest was forthcoming, which he knew, which is why he came to New York. And ultimately, he was arrested, and he has been incarcerated and denied bail, not one, not two, but 3 different times. That clearly is not the case here. Should Jay-Z be fearful that it could be the case? Is this the kind of thing that we're looking at down the line potentially?
I'm glad you asked that question because I want to distinguish between what we're seeing right now, Stephen A., with the Jay-Z situation and what we saw in the Diddy situation. There, as you mentioned, raid on his home, lengthy investigation, going even the charges, talking about a criminal enterprise, his companies and all that, not only in him, not only involved in making records, but having this criminal enterprise with these free calls. I would not connect, I'd be loath right now to connect the P. Diddy case with Jay-Z. And for one really big reason, and then other small reasons. The big reason is, in the Diddy Combs case, they're arguing that he set up this entire criminal enterprise. And part of this enterprise were these free calls. That's not being suggested in the Jay-Z case. The Jay-Z case is suggesting, at least the accusation is, he was at this party that P. Diddy was throwing, and that there was a sexual assault that occurred, and that Jay-Z committed it. Completely different circumstances, completely different situation. Do I know if it could go there and something could happen? We don't know at this point. As you said, we don't know enough information about that right now. But that's a big difference. The other difference is here, you talked about should he be fearful. I would say there has to be concern. And the reason there has to be concern is, and we talked about this when we talked about the Diddy case. We talked about the idea that there were all these people involved. Even in the Jane Doe's case with Jay-Z, she claims that she runs out and nobody did anything. One of the things U.S. attorneys said when they were doing the Diddy case was, when they made that big announcement, P. Diddy has been arrested, they made the point of our investigation is ongoing. They are not stopping. That was not the end of it. So why I think Jay-Z should be concerned, he said he didn't do anything, but, and on its face, let's assume that's the case. Why he should be concerned is being involved in the orbit that is P. Diddy, being involved in the orbit of the situation, being involved in the orbit of the claims that Jane Doe made, piques the attention of investigators. This is just how investigators think. When they file a claim, when they see a claim like P. Diddy, and as expansive as that was, and they think about all the people that might have been involved or seen something or been there, they're trained to look at this and say, who else might have been involved? Are there any other cases out there? So when they see this, if I'm his lawyer, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to at least make sure he's not tied into that in any way. And I've got to at least expect investigators to maybe look at, keep an ear, keep an eye on, and maybe ask questions about whether there's any intersection in this case to that case. See, it's an interesting difference there, because it's not to say, oh, there's going to be a concern that he'll be involved in the Diddy criminal enterprise. It's more a concern of investigators follow the trail of whatever evidence they find, and whatever they hear, and whatever they see. And what you have to wonder about and worry about, I think, be concerned about it with Jay-Z, is are investigators eventually going to ask questions in some way of me because of this case that's been filed against me?
As you well know, Rock Nation has a partnership deal with the National Football League to produce the Super Bowl halftime show. And so naturally, when these allegations got aimed at Jay-Z, a lot of people were waiting to hear from the National Football League to see what it was going to do. And NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell had this to say this week when asked about the suit. Quote, "We are aware of the civil allegations," and Jay-Z's really strong response to them. "We know obviously that litigation is happening, but from our standpoint, our relationship is not changing with them, including our preparations for the next Super Bowl," end quote. Number one, from a legal perspective, how common of a position was that to receive from an entity like the NFL? And number two, what kind of effect, if any at all, do you think it will have on this ongoing situation?
So number one, I'll admit, Stephen A., I was surprised to see that, only because my sense usually when you talk about organizations like the NFL and claims against partners who have been accused of really heinous situations is basically no comment, or we're waiting to see what happens with the evidence. That would be the first thought. Perhaps there was some sort of discussion that happened after these claims surfaced, and Roger Goodell was made to feel that, hey, there's nothing to see here, this is something that's going to go away. So maybe that was why they felt comfortable making that response, saying, going to stand by Jay-Z and keep working with Rock Nation. But I got to say, I was surprised. Just because usually we're used to seeing the NFL say, hey, if there's anything, even a semblance of something that could tarnish our name and our brand in any way, we're going to at least say, let's wait and see what happens here. We're going to at least say, no comment, we'll see as it comes, we're just following whatever happens. Tell me your second question again.
I said, how will this affect it? How do you think this will affect the NFL's position with Jay-Z at this particular moment in time, affect things moving forward, whether it be their relationship with him or this overall case?
I think it's interesting. When I look at this, will the NFL's relationship with him affect the processing of the case? I don't think it will affect what authorities do or what a judge might do. I think what becomes interesting in all of this is, how does this case process based on that relationship he has with the NFL and based on what Jay-Z does and has. One thing we know about Jay-Z is he has a deep pocket. So, and that was part of what you brought up here. Hey, just because I have money doesn't mean you can come at me for something that I'm saying I'm innocent for. But if you think about where maybe the Jane Doe's lawyer is coming from, if you think about it of, hey, you've got finances, you did something, I'm coming after you, maybe that makes him continue to press the case. Maybe that makes him continue to say, hey, I'm not giving up on this. Not just for money, but more from the sense of, especially when you talk about Tony Busby, more from the sense of, this is a person who says, hey, I'm fighting on behalf of the unknowns against superstars who think they can do things and just get away with it. I'm the person who's going to bring those people to justice. So the more that Jay-Z has people stand by him, obviously for him, that's a good thing. That bolsters his claim of, hey, I've done nothing wrong in the court of public opinion. But I think for Jane Doe and her attorney, the sense is, hey, this is a person, in our opinion, because we believe the allegations are true, this is a person who thinks he can do what he wants and won't be held accountable, and we're not going to stop until there's accountability. I tell you, this is a complicated case where we got to wait for a lot of information to come in.
It's 24 years after the fact. A lot of people have made noise about that. Doesn't mean anything because we know how often women have been victimized and how they've been reluctant to come forward. The laws have changed, society has changed, our heightened level of sensitivity has really kicked up as well. Even in these times where I think that people are far more understanding and men have no choice but to be far more receptive to these things that women have been telling us that they have been enduring and experiencing for quite a long time. What are we to make of it being coming to light 24 years later, these allegations?
That they mean more to the public and to all of us now. And that's not to say they didn't mean anything before. That's to say, you can even see it in the laws, even based on how this. We talked earlier about whether or not a case could be brought, a criminal complaint. When you talk about that, years ago, there was a statute of limitation for certain degrees of rape that was only 5 years. Those laws have been changed significantly. Now there's much more, but that's part of the problem of this case. It happened so long ago, depending on if prosecutors took up a case, it could affect whether or not the statute of limitations applies. But even in the law is what I'm saying, even in the law, our way of viewing cases like this has changed drastically. But in the public, I think is where it really matters, Stephen. We look at cases like this, and we say, people who are in power, who did bad things to others, have to be held accountable. I want to say it again. That is not me saying anything about Jay-Z. What that's saying is, when you talk about authorities, there is not some sense of, hey, this happened 24 years ago, not a lot of evidence, nothing to see here, we're just going to move on and prosecute cases from today. There is a real sense on behalf of law enforcement and authorities and courts and everyone to say, hey, these cases don't go away because they're old if the statute of limitation doesn't apply and they can be heard. And when you talk about investigations, this is what I thought was so interesting about the Diddy case, and I think resonates throughout the entertainment industry. I think investigators are now looking at cases like this, the Diddy